Today we will speak about beta, about life in beta to be particular, and about how life in beta can change our industry. And the funny stuff about, if I want to do that, about that presentation that Sheridan, where is Sheridan? He came to me just before, very slowly, said, "You know that you have one slide which is empty." I says, "Yes, I know, this is part of the presentation, this is life in beta. This is the starting point for everything, which is white sheet of paper or this kind of thing." So what is life in beta? First, it's a presentation that's bound to be improved. And this actually presentation was written something like 2009, 2008, and from time to time I changed the presentation because this is life in beta and it changed all the time. So what is beta? I mean, if you will go to Wikipedia, you will see that beta, in basic idea, is something which is not finished. It's something that nobody will be surprised just to get and to understand that there are some bugs, that it's not the final, it's the campaign. I mean, this is what. And why that? I mean, when you ask about that, you can see, for example, the internet. The internet, as we know, it's a total big beta. I mean, every day the internet becomes better and better and better. So let's speak for a second about Google and about some other brands, which beta is the kind of life for many years. Google is totally beta. Google, which is one of the strongest brands in the world, is still defined. They define it still as a beta version. Of course, it's a one widespread, enormous beta. It changes all the time. They innovate all the time. So Google is beta, and everything in Google is always developing all the time. And of course, today Google is a kind of experimental version of the tomorrow Google. So Google defines it, and let's see the definition that they have. And they have, I mean, I guess they took every word and put it in a very specific way. So they're saying through innovation and preservedness, Google takes something that works well and improves it in unexpected ways. So Google, which is one of the biggest companies in the world, one of the most, I mean, they're doing billions of dollars, they speak on themselves that they are not good enough. And they are saying this ongoing dissatisfaction is eventually the force behind the best search engine in the world. So they know that they are the best, but there is dissatisfaction all the time, which is part of what we learn in Berlin School of Thinking, in the third model. So this is Google, and by the way, this is Gmail, and you can see here, it says beta. And this is Gmail. I mean, when they announced on 2009, they announced that they can go and take out the beta sign. But on the other hand, they gave us, all of us, if you want to remain it, I mean, you can remain it. This is after it was so enormous success. Let's go for Wikipedia, for example, the free encyclopedia. So Wikipedia, again, by definition, will be forever a kind of a beta version. In every second, there is another language or there is another thing. So Wikipedia, another one of those great brands, Wikipedia will be always in a beta stage. Let's go for Facebook. And you know, Facebook change all the time. So even Facebook, although they are not saying that they are in a beta stage, but they behave like in beta stage all the time. For example, and this is one of the problems of beta stage, is the Google Buzz, which was in 2010. They didn't cook enough that product. But they were brave enough to tell everybody that this is not about the final version, and they took it off. So this is part of beta. This is part of being, I mean, in advertising. What do you mean we are going to take off the campaign? I mean, in those days, I mean, this is the campaign. We cannot change anything. And this is Google, which is a bigger company. So my first thing for today is life in beta, is the understanding that a brand or anything will always be in a beta. This is the key for success in the new world. This is the key success for all those great brands. And these brands are changing now other brands. If you will go to Coca-Cola 20 years ago, they will say to you very simple, we are not going to change, this is the best product in the world, this is Red, this is Coke, and that's it. And if you will mention them that you think about doing some kind of Coke with a black label, they say, no, black is not food. And we think we are going to call it zero. What do you mean zero? Zero is nothing. I mean, Coca-Cola and some other brands are changing all the time because of these Google, Wikipedia, Facebook, and etc. So nothing is perfect and nothing will never be perfect. Because in every moment, everything can improve. And that's a big change to our industry too. The second thing is, what do you want to be when you grow up? What is your most far-reaching ambition? What is the biggest ambition that you think? And let's speak again about the same brands. Google is not just another search engine, as you know. The most far-reaching ambition that they have is to organize all the information in the world. This is kind of a crazy ambition, but this was the first step for Google. And when you ask the two gentlemen like that, I mean, this was the last day of one of the session in a week with the teacher, and one of them said to the teacher, I'm going to download all the internet to my computer. So again, a kind of a crazy ambition to do something. If you go to Facebook, so Facebook is not just another social network. The most far-reaching ambition is to be everybody or everyone communication network. And let's see, for example, this is a picture from Thailand, from one of the islands in Thailand a few years ago. And believe it or not, nobody is sending mails anymore. All the people in those coffee shops are going to be inside Facebook. No mails anymore. So what Zuckerberg has in his mind is something which is far ambition. eBay is not just another online store. The most far-reaching ambition, everyone can buy and sell anything. So again, it's a kind of a very ambitious and challenging idea. Wikipedia is not just another encyclopedia. The most far-reaching ambition is to be the world's largest free encyclopedia. You can ask Britannica if they think. Amazon is not just a bookstore at all. Again, the most far-reaching ambition is the world's largest online store. And Twitter, this is a nice thing from 2009, when they have, I mean, a kind of the beginning of their success, he said, I mean, Bill Stone said, we will be the pulse of the planet. And he celebrated in that time 1 million users, but he wanted to speak, if we had 1 billion users, you can see the ambition. So the second thing is impossible dream. And this is from the presentation and the launch of Apple in 1997. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the one who do. Let's see. This is the commercial from 1997.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
This is a commercial 15 years ago, and everybody can think in this place now, do they change the world? Yes. So it wasn't only about speaking about that, it was really about making something which can change the world. And we will go again to the different thing later. So the third thing, it's not us, it's them. And the surfers are at the center and not us. It means for Google, for example, that focus on the user and all the rest will follow. This is what Google is saying very dramatically, but very simple. Google is always put the user first and keep the interest of the user as a first priority. Google believes that millions of people on the internet know better than any kind of group of editors. And by the way, when they tried to create Google in some other company, nobody wanted to buy them because it was far away in thinking. So this is Google and Wikipedia. Again, the wisdom of the crowds is the basis of the world's largest encyclopedia. So again, they understand that this is the most important thing. It's not about us, it's not about the brands, it's about people, and they have better things than us. This is from a research about who wants to be millionaire. And it was a research which was so simple. It says that 91% of the times, any kind of 100 people will know the answer better than the expert of that thing, which was only 65. So every time 100 people will know better. And behind that you can understand all those great brands. And Amazon, of course, they're not going to write any review. It's very simple that the people reviews will be better than any other review that any kind of the best writer or the best reader or the best whatsoever can write. So again, and about advertising, I think, and we will go back to that, in advertising we don't think like that most times. We think that the wisdom of the crowds really changed the last couple of years, but we think that we know everything, we know better. YouTube, again, if the content is interesting, the surfers, and only the surfers, will make this, for example, this video or this Susan Boyle to be bigger than life. Not YouTube CEO. This is a book Jeff Jarvis just defined that in his book, and it says very simple: make something useful, help people to use it, and then get out of the way. Which is, for me, it's the most important thing about advertising, and I hate the word advertising. So it's not the F word, but it's becoming the A word. And people hate advertising, firstly because of us. Because we are not doing from time to time good advertising. They don't hate advertising, they hate bad advertising. But there is such amount of bad advertising all the time. So the third thing is a platform. We are here to the surfers for the surfers and not on the other way. Now let's speak about the three things how that can challenge our industry, how that can change our life in day to day. So life in beta in the ad world is first to understand that your ad, your commercial is always in a beta. This is the key for me for success in the new world. Nothing is perfect. Don't try to create the perfect advertising commercial. It's not about that anymore. It's about engaging people. It's about doing something which can challenge and which can change all the time. It's not about final. It's not about the last point of a marketing issue. It's about the first point. And by the way, Google is saying it very carefully. Google is not the last place in the internet. It's the first place. And I'm saying that today, what we should do in our world is to be the first step of a big marketing move, and not to be the last one, not to be the rep, to be the first, to be the beginning. Because nothing can be perfect, and believe it or not, most of the Grand Prix yesterday and the day before are those projects that when they started, nobody knew how far that they can go. So this is what we need in advertising, which is different from what we used to do. Because we used to say, there's no way we don't know. You can't say to a client you don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Knowing is strength. If you don't know, you will go to another agency. And I'm saying that not to know is the most important thing to be now. When you don't know, and when you have a I don't know project on the table, will be better than, let's say, a pilot going, everybody knows what he's going to do, we shoot that commercial, we know everything, and that's it, and in the end there is just another campaign. So not knowing is great. And I created, speaking of that, I created a chart of an idea that I think that creative, which all of us, we were about this place, about the creative. And I'm saying creative is not, it is a luxury way to be creative. Creative is a commodity. Everybody can be creative now. Everybody from the front desk in the agency can be the greatest idea ever. So it's not about creativity anymore, it's something more than that. And then you go to brilliant. But the only problem with brilliant is that you cannot go to the supermarket and I want to buy a kilo of brilliant. And the second there is something brilliant, the second of that, it's always history. So we go to different. This is the place that Apple changed the strategy in 1997. And when you go to different, this is the first place that everybody can see you and you are beginning a kind of a game. And you're going to play another game. This is a totally different. Think about a big, let's say, big amount of work like here. 50,000 entries to something. If you are not different, you are already dead. The only way to survive after 15,000 entries is, on the first place, to be different. So the jury, also the consumer, whatsoever, will put it aside. But different is not enough, and of course the next place, and this is the best place to be, is innovation. And speaking about that chart, let me give you some example of what I mean. If you will take, for example, all the Grand Prix from this year, from last year, and etc., where you put them, is pay with a tweet is creative, or is it innovation? Yes, it's innovation. Because they created a new way of currency. And we can go every Grand Prix on every piece of work, which is great. Let's go, for example, for people. If I would ask you where you put Steve Jobs here on the chart, would it be creative, brilliant, different, or innovation? Most people will say innovation. If you will take Facebook, now we are in the product, so Facebook will be innovation. If you will take, for example, the magazine Wired, the magazine Time, I'm not sure Time will be an innovation, but I'm sure Wired, yes. If you will take Fast Company, and you will take, for another example, Economist, which is a great magazine, but again, Fast Company will be there. So whenever you take that chart, and you can push the people in the agency to go to innovation and not to stop only about the creative. This is a great beginning, and it starts with being different. The second thing, as we said, is the impossible dream. What is your most far-reaching ambition? First, I will ask, would you go to do an ad? I'm not sure in 2011 we want to do ads. It should be something more than ad. We should achieve something which is more than that. When I was in the Palais and I saw the idea of that supermarket from Korea, they changed life. This is not about advertising anymore. This is not about creating. This is about changing life of people. This is what we can do now. So whenever you think about what you can do, stop calling it ad. It should be much more than that. We should change life of people. This is not about advertising. This is not about only communication. This is about a new era and new abilities that we can have with the technology, and we can change the life of people. We can give them benefits that we couldn't do before. We call it in our agency in a very simple. First, we cut out the creative meeting, so we don't have a creative meeting anymore in the agency. We have on Sundays. We are working on Sundays instead of Fridays. On Sundays morning, there is innovation meeting. And the idea of that meeting is that every week we have a kind of a project that everybody from the agency can participate. I mean, it can be a guy that came to the agency that just 2 days ago. He has the freedom to compete with all those big egos and gurus and everybody on the project. And the idea behind that meeting is please bring to the table the ideas you think we cannot do. This is the main idea of the agency, and because of that, different project came to the table, big laughs in the room, because everybody think, yeah, you are speaking that, but let's do it. And believe it or not, that changed the ideas, and this is for Michael, it's those 17 lions in 4 years, is because we changed from creative to innovative. And this is a very simple key to ask people to bring in everybody in the game. And the last thing, as I said, is a platform. Your ad, your campaign, your move, whatsoever, what name you're going to do, is, as I said, not the best ending point, but the best starting point. And a platform, not an ad. We are here, as I said, not for advertising, but rather for innovation, for content, for collaboration, for doing different stuff, from doing different capabilities of what we have done. And let's speak for a second about Cannes Festival 10 years ago. 10 years ago, there is print, there is outdoor, radio, and TV. And see, I mean, I remember those days that you come into the Palais and going to the right side, okay, the print exhibition. And I can tell you for sure that, at least for me, I still enjoy print, but there are things in media, in direct, in all those new categories, we change the way we can think. By the way, also on print, the new way of print is now stronger than just the classical print. So we are not about doing advertising, we are doing something which is more than advertising. Innovation, content, collaboration, something else. And I want to show a project that we have done a few months ago. It was on December 1st, 2010. This idea is about an open idea platform. So we didn't create a campaign, we created an idea that was an open idea. It was the starting point of a campaign. So let's see it.
On World AIDS Day, December 1st, 2010, our radio campaign had a core idea. We invited top anchors from all radio...
Second, technology. Let's see.
AIDS Day, December 1st, 2010, our radio campaign had a core idea. We invited top anchors from all radio stations in the country to take HIV tests live during their broadcasts and get the results live in 30 minutes. It all began with a radio spot, a dramatic announcement that opened every broadcast hour. Hello to all our listeners. Our broadcast will resume shortly. Today, World AIDS Day, we join the Get Tested project. Our anchors and anchors from all radio stations in Israel are now taking HIV tests. But instead of just telling a story, the Get Tested campaign was an open idea platform.
It will upload in a second. So we didn't create a campaign, we did an idea. And it was an open platform to all people and all radio stations, all content people, to create something which is bigger than the campaign was. And this was the main key for that idea.
An invitation and the inspiration for radio stations and anchors to be creative and make the campaign their own.
Yeah. Sorry for that. We ran it a few times, it was okay. So anyhow, what happened is that
some anchors opened their shows talking about the importance of getting tested, while others actually agreed.
Okay, we'll stop it for a second. So anyhow, what happened is that we gave the idea to all radio stations and to all anchors. And what happens is that some of them took the idea and took, more than 30 anchors, top anchors like think in your countries, and took HIV test in the beginning of the show, and after 30 minutes got the answer. In between, it became a kind of a drama, kind of Orson Welles drama about what's going to happen, about interview from the people with the AIDS task force, etc. And in the end, it became the most successful project for the AIDS task force ever, because it was a kind of a combination between all the things together. So it's not only advertising or kind of a radio announcement, it became a content, it became a thing that the media is part of it, it became something that most people in the country couldn't forget for many years. And of course the results became to be more than twice successful the AIDS task force in terms of making people go to HIV test. Your computer. No, I don't like your computer. I know. No, go to the next one. Okay. So whenever we can do a kind of an open idea platform to create the beginning of a big thing, and think about Biden and Kennedy and the great job that they have done for that allspice. It's an open, big thing. They know where they start. They don't know where they finish. And the last thing is that chart. I think probably in every kind of a creative director room, there is that wall with all the great stuff. I call it the empty wall, and it's going to be next week, the day after Cannes. Every year when I'm coming from Cannes, the first thing that I'm going is to my room, which all the great things, now 4 lions are on that room, on that wall. I'm going to take everything out, and it's going to be again blank. And this is the most strong sign to all people in the agency that life is better, and this is Cannes 2011. And now we are all starting from the beginning. Thank you for everybody.